Today we will be solving percent problems. So let's take a look at some similar problems to tonight's homework. There's two different types of percent problems you'll be solving tonight, and here's what they look like. They might be worded a little bit differently, but pretty much they're the same. So the first one says 50 is 40% of what number? Well, whenever we see these words is and of, those help us in figuring out where the numbers go. But before we get to where they go in our proportion, let's talk about what a percent problem looks like when we set it up as a proportion. Remember, a percent is only a number over 100. That's all a percent is. Well, what we're going to end up doing is setting it equal to a fraction. Well, what is a fraction? Well, a fraction is a part over a whole. And so remembering this concept of a percent is only the number, whatever the percent number is. So let's say I have just the number here. Let's say if it's 40%, then 40 would go on top of the fraction, and it'd be over 100. And then we'd have this other fraction that we'd set up. And so the part is always on top, the whole is on the bottom when we're talking about a fraction. So for instance, if we had like the fraction 3/8, well, 3/8 is just 3 parts out of 8 parts. So if I drew a little bar here, we'd have 8 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let me just cut this in equal pieces here, and then I'll just erase a little portion of it. And so there's my 8s, there's my 8 parts, and now let's color in just 3. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so I do have that right. So I color in 3 parts, and there it is, 3 out of 8. 8 is a total, a whole, 3 is a part, 3 parts. So what we're going to do is we need to figure out what is a part and what is a whole, because we already know that the percent is just the number over 100. So I can start with that right now. 40 over 100. I just need to figure out, what is this part? What is this whole? Well, these two words, remember I had said they are important words. They help us know what goes where. Well, if we think about it this way, it says of what number? Of what number? 40% of what number? Of tells us the whole. And the word is associated with the part. And so if we remember that the is represents the part and the of represents the whole, what we can do is come up with a little saying. We could say a percent, a number over 100, is equal to is over of. And that would be the same thing as part over whole, because the word associated with is the part. The number associated with of is the whole. And so let's go ahead and try setting this one up. It says 50 is, so that tells us that is the part. And it says of what number? Of, well, we don't know what the number is, so that's what the question is. So let's use an X to represent that. And then we can go ahead and solve. And so when we solve these, we're just using that cross multiplication. So we're going to cross multiply here, 40 times by X. So that makes 40X. Over on this other side, I got 50 times by 100. Well, the nice thing about multiplying by 100 is it just adds 2 zeros right there, those 2 zeros. And so from there, we just need to do some division. Divide by 40. And so the nice thing about dividing by numbers that have 10 as a factor is that means those zeros will cross out. So all we have to do is that 4 into 500. And so off to the side, you might set that up. 4 into 500. I know 4 goes into 5 one time. Leaves me with 1 left over, so I brought down this 0. 4 into 10 goes 2 times. And that makes 8. I subtract, I get a 5 left over. And, oops, I'm sorry, I get a 2 left over, if I could do that subtraction right. So let's change that real quick. Got a 2 left over. Bring down that 0, and 4 goes into 25 times. So there it is. X equals 125. That means the whole was 125. The part is 50. And so if we divide 50 by 100, we get 0.4, or 40%. Let's move on to the next one. Here we've got 4% of what number? So of X is 25. Let's set it up. So we've got the number over 100, that's the percent, 4 over 100, equals of what number? We don't know what the number is. Remember, it's is over of. Of tells us the whole, so that goes on the bottom, is 25. 25 goes on top. And we're ready to cross multiply. So we're going to multiply the 4 and the x together. We get 4x. We're going to multiply that 125. And remember, we like multiplying by 100 because it just adds 2 zeros or moves the decimal to the right 2 spaces. In this case, we'll add 2 zeros. And we're ready to do the division. So we're going to divide by 4. No canceling out of zeros here, so we just have to set up our problem. Remember, top dog goes in the doghouse. 2,500 goes in that doghouse right here. And now we've got 4 into 25. Well, it goes in there 6 times, almost evenly. So you got 24 there. You do some subtraction. You got 4 into 10 goes 2 times. Makes 8. We do some subtraction again. We got 24 into 20 goes evenly 5 times. There it is. X is 625. I knew it had to be a big number because it was only 4%. 4% is a small percentage, and 25 is the number, so the number had to be a lot bigger than 25, and that is a lot bigger. Let's try another one here. We've got what percent? This one's a little different. So the last 2 problems were asking us for the whole. And you've only got 2 different types of problems on this homework. They're either going to ask for the whole, or like this one, they're going to ask for what is the percent. So there it is. What percent? We don't know what percent. So that means it's x over 100. See, it's x percent, but remember a percent is a number over 100. So this is what we're going to set up. Of 55 is 22. Of 55 tells us that's the whole. The is tells us that's the part. Remember, percent over 100, or number over 100, equals is over of. So let's set it up. We got x over 100 equals, and then the part is 22, the whole is 55. So we're ready to do the work. What we do there is cross multiply. We got x times 55 is 55x. And we got 100 times by 22. Again, we like multiplying by 100. It just adds 2 zeros in this case. All right, so we're ready to divide. Divide by that 55. Now, when you've got 2 double numbers there, 11 is a factor. But if you didn't see that right away, what we can do is just set up the problem. Remember, top dog goes in the doghouse. Put the 55 on the outside. Now we have to do 55 into 220. Well, what I do is I think about this. I just think of 5 into, and I cut off this 0 here. Just think of 5 into 22 first. Figure out what that number is. 5 goes into 22 4 times. And so that gives me a place to start. So I'm going to try up off the side 55 times by 4. So that makes 20. Added 2 there. Makes 22. Hey, that works. 4 was the right number. Got it on the first try, and actually I got a remainder of 0, but we're not done. A lot of people say, oh, that's the answer, 4, but you're not done. You see, you've got an extra 0 here. We need another place value right here, and so we need to use a placeholder, which we call 0. And so there it is, x is 40, but don't just write 40. Won't get the answer quite right. It's a percentage. That's what you were trying to find there, 40%. I've got a couple of word problems on the homework. These are very similar problems. Actually, these come from the textbook, and here's one of them. The sales tax on a $120 skateboard at a surf and skate is $9.60. So this, see, it says is $9.60. This even tells us that this is the part. The part is a smaller portion of the total. So this is the total amount. So the total represents the whole. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have a sales tax. The sales tax is our percentage. We don't know what that is yet, but it's a percentage of this part over the whole. So we're going to go ahead and set up our problem this way. We don't know what the percentage is. What is the percentage? What is the sales tax? That's our question. X percent. We don't know. So we're going to set it up this way. X over 100. Now what's our part? The part is the smaller amount in this case because it's just a tax that they added on to the whatever this is, the skateboard. And so we have a $9.60 tax. That's what the tax was. That's the part. The whole is the total amount of the product, $120. So if you buy something, typically you're going to have to spend more because there's a sales tax incorporated into the problem. But the store's still going to get that $120. You're just going to have to pay an extra amount to the government for that tax. And so we've got the problem set up. So now we're ready to solve. And so the way we do that is we multiply the x by 120. So we get 120x. And on this side, again, we're going to, instead of adding 2 zeros here, we get to move the decimal 2 spaces. So here we've got decimal points. So that's why we just don't add zeros. Move it 1, 2 spaces. So that means it's going to be 960. So it was right between the 9 and the 6. Moved it 1, 2 spaces. Got an empty space there, so add that 0. Well, from this point, we're ready to divide. We're going to divide by 120. Notice we've got a factor of 10. I know I got a factor of 10 because I got 0 at the end. So you see those zeros will cross out. So really, it's just 12 into 96. Here's why your teacher asked you to memorize your 12s, because they come up sometimes. Also, there's 12 inches in a foot, so it's sometimes nice to know increments of 12. So how many times does 12 go into 96? We've got 8 times, evenly. And so there it is. But don't just write the answer 8. What is 8? 8 is a percent. Read the problem. Figure out what you're trying to find. We're trying to find a rate, a sales tax rate, a percentage. Well, here's the other problem. This is similar to this last problem on the in the practice workbook. And so it says a pack of 12 cinnamon scented pencils sells for $3 at a school booster club sale. What is the sales tax rate? Oh, they want to know the sales tax rate again. They want to know X percent. We don't know what that is. It says if the total cost is $3.21. Now, careful here. This is kind of a misnomer. Yes, the total cost is this amount, but this includes something. This includes the total cost of the item, includes the cost of the item, plus it also includes the tax. So there's 2 components here. And so what they want to know is they want to know the tax rate. Okay, that's important. So let's go ahead and try setting up our problem. So we've got x over 100, that's our percentage that we're trying to find out, equals, now, what is the total? Well, people get confused because they say, oh, the total is 321, but no. The total is the amount that you're going to end up spending on the item. Look over here. See, this total was not $9.60 plus 120. The total was, in this case, 120. And so we are going to use $3 as the total. All right, so what goes in the part? Well, the part's not 321. This is the total amount of the item, the cost of the item, and the tax. We want to know just the tax. We need the tax. How do I find the tax? How much tax did I spend? Well, let's do this. Let's take that total amount that we ended up spending, 321, and subtract the amount of the item, the 12 scented pencils. So I'm going to subtract that $3 from the 321 to find out what the tax is. And this will give me the tax, what that tax actually was. So let's rewrite the problem. Still have x over 100 equals, now do that subtraction, $3 cancel out, I'm left with that 21 cents over 3. So we're ready to solve. So we're going to go ahead and use that cross multiplication, and I will multiplying the x by the 3, and I get 3x. And then over here I get 2100 times by 100. We like multiplying by 100 because it moves the decimal 2 spaces. 1, 2. So we move it over 2 spaces. We got ourselves 21. And then from that point, we go ahead and divide. So divide by 3, and we've got our answer. So there it is. X is 7. But don't just write 7. We've got to realize what this is. It's a sales tax rate. They want a percentage added on there. So there it is. 7%. Well, good luck on tonight's homework.